Good morning, welcome everybody to the fourth webinar of the series Artificial Intelligence Methods and Applications. This is a series dedicated to artificial intelligence with German and Italian researchers. Today we are very happy to have Giuseppe DE PIETro and Antonio KRÜGER. Giuseppe DE PIETro from CNR and Antonio KRÜGER from the DFKI, the German Institute, the German Research Center for Artificial Intelligence. This is as I said, this is the fourth seminar. We will have probably a fifth seminar, which is not yet completely decided. Probably it will be at the end of January, around in 3 weeks' time from now. So stay tuned for that. My name is Matteo Pardo. I am from the Office for International Relations of CNR. I have been the science attaché in the Italian embassy in Berlin until a few years ago. I am co-organizing this webinar series with Professor Vincenzo Fiorentini, who will give a few introductory words after me. Vincenzo Fiorentini is one of the current two scientific attachés in the Italian embassy. So again, from my side, welcome, and I give the word to Vincenzo.
Thank you, Matteo. Good morning, everybody. As been said, I'm one of the two science attachés at the Italian embassy in Berlin, and so I bring you the greetings from the embassy and from the ambassador. So today we have, I think I can go straight ahead with the first talk, I guess. So the first talk in alphabetic order is by Giuseppe DE PIETro. Giuseppe is the director of the Institute for High Performance Computing and Networking of CNR and the president of the Future Artificial Intelligence Research Foundation. So he's basically very much involved in, in setting up AI policies, in particular related to the recent PNRR funding that Italy has received, is receiving currently. So the title of his talk is Artificial Intelligence in Italy, Strategies and Initiatives. So I give the floor to Giuseppe.
Okay. Well, thank you. Can you see and hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, perfect. All right. First of all, I would like to thank Dr. Fiorentini and Dr. Pardo for giving me the opportunity to give this seminar. Okay. As you can see of my title, my presentation about artificial intelligence in Italy, strategy and initiative. This is the agenda of my brief talk. First of all, I will give a brief overview about the Italian strategic program on artificial intelligence. Then I will spend a few words about the Italian artificial intelligence ecosystem, but then I focus my attention on the actors, the players in the research world. And last but not least, I will give some information and overview about the future artificial intelligence research partnership, which is at the present the biggest AI initiative in Italy. Okay. Well, in 2021 was released the Italian strategic program, which in the case for the period 2022-2024, 6 objectives. So the goal of the Italian strategy, 11 priority sectors where Italy intends to concentrate its investment, and 3 areas of intervention. Which these are intervention respond to the question on how the country aims to achieve the stated objectives. And these 3 areas of intervention are mainly strengthening and attracting talents and competencies that will enable the AI-driven economy. The second area of intervention is expanding funding of advanced research in AI. And the third one is favoring the adoption of artificial intelligence and its application, both in the public administration and in the Italian economy at large. As you can see here, there are, this slide presented 6 main objectives, which range from to advance the frontier research in AI, to reduce AI research fragmentation. It's a very important objective, as I can show you later. How to develop and develop human-centered and trustworthy AI. The objective 4 is related to how increase the AI-based system, AI-based innovation and development of AI technology. And well, the objective 5 is mainly focusing on AI for the public sector. And the objective 6, which is a very challenging objective, is how to create, retain, attract AI talent in Italy. Okay. This in this slide, I simply list the priority sector selected within the strategic program, which range from manufacturing, education, Siemens, agri-food, and so on. Okay, this is to give about to give you a brief overview about the intervention sectors. But as I show you before, the 6 objectives laid out the preview define the goals of the strategic program. On the other side, the 11 priority sectors define where Italy intends to invest the most. So the real question is, what is the strategy to achieve the state objective in the priority sectors? Well, and there are 3 key areas for policy intervention in order to obtain the previous mentioned goals, objective. The first area is talent and skill, which relate to development of human resources with the A skills. The second area is the research, and the third intervention area is application. You can I highlight with this yellow box 2 aspects that will be implemented, mainly implemented within the FAIR partnership. The first is related to the initiative for improving the skill in AI and how we prepare the new workforce for the new challenges in artificial intelligence. And the other aspect is that with the research key area, there is a very big initiative, which is the FAIR initiative, which is concentrated on the fundamental research. What is already already done is it is ongoing with respect to the problem of new skills and to consolidate the existing skills. Okay, there is in 2022 it has been established a new national PhD program on AI. This program is under the coordination of CNR University of Pisa. This PhD program is a federation of 5 programs, and each of program is characterized by an application area, and there are also some the training which is common to all these application area and is shared among these 5 programs. In this slide, you can see that the specialization area are AI for health and life science, AI for industry 4.0, AI for security, AI for environment and agriculture, and and data science for society. And on the bottom of this slide, you can see all the common knowledge shared among all these specialization areas. So the students acquire knowledge on sustainable AI, data science, distributed AI, and so on. And this is a common for all these 5 specialization areas. Well, let me go on versus the Italian AI ecosystem. And the Italian AI ecosystem is composed of 4 categories: research communities, knowledge transfer centers, technology and solution providers, private and public user organization. But now I will focus my attention only on research communities, okay? Now I will start from the CNR. CNR is the largest public research institution in Italy, and it's the only one under research ministry performing multidisciplinary activities. Okay, the CNR mission is quite wide and ranges from research to technology transfer these activities are carried out by means of about 8,500 permanent staff, 7% research. The CNR organized in 7 departments and 18 institutes with 228 sites. The department which is most involved in the AI research is the Department of Engineering, ICT Technology for Energy and Transportation. Another very important player in the AI world in Italy is the Artificial Intelligence System Laboratory of the CINI. CINI is a public consortium formed by Italian university and is currently equipped with 12 research labs, and the IES is one of these 12 research labs, aims to create the foundation for an effective Italian ecosystem of artificial intelligence. And this lab involves, as you can see from this slide, about more than 1,200 members, with the 5 nodes in 47 universities and 8 nodes in 4 research centers. This is the network of SINA labs in Italy. Well, we are also another important player is the Italian Institute of Technology, which is a foundation financed by the state to conduct scientific research in public interest for the purpose of technological development, and the IT is mainly involved in research of artificial intelligence for robotics. Okay, sorry, I go faster, otherwise I will spend a lot of time. There are the 4 research domain in which the Istituto Italiano di Tecnologia applies its research. And another important player is Fondazione Bruno Kessler, is a private research foundation, which is a community of about 400 researchers, and most of activities of FBK Foundation are related to artificial intelligence, which is the mission of FBK strategic plan for the decade starting from 2018 to 2028. Finally, a brief description. There is a very important also Italian association on AI called the AI4IA, This association was born in 1988 as a member of the European Association for Artificial Intelligence, EURAI. And the main goal of this association is to increase the knowledge on artificial intelligence in Italian community, also encouraging its teaching and promoting theoretical and applied research. Okay, and this is performed by organized seminar, convention, and so on. Well, right now I have I hope to have given let us say an overview about the present situation, about the involvement of the research community in Italy. As you can see, there are many players with different goals, academic, and also there are also many industrial players which spend most of their effort in artificial intelligence application, in the technology transfer from an application of AI in the industrial environments. Well, now I will present the Future Artificial Intelligence Research Partnership. And as I said at the beginning of my presentation, this is the biggest initiative on AI in Italy. Okay, so in 2022, the Italian Large Partnership on Future AI Research Fair has been approved by Italian Ministry of University and Research. Okay, the CNR is the coordinator of this partnership, which was founded within the framework of a national recovery and resilience plan. Okay, we start our activity on the 1st January 2023, and all the fair activities of this partnership are coordinated by the FAIR Foundation. FAIR Foundation is a public-private organization which main goals are, first of all, to implement, coordinate, and manage the future artificial intelligence research partnership. The second very important goal is to promote the creation of a national ecosystem on artificial intelligence involving research, citizens, and companies. Okay. Here you can see the 5 partners. We have 12 public institutions controlled by the Ministry of University and Research. Okay, we are 6 public-private institutions, essentially private university, and also 7 companies. There are also 2 additional members like Unimore and CINI, which belongs to the hub, but they do not participate to the project. As you can see, all the partners that I mentioned before, CNR, IIT, CINI, FBK, are partner of FAIR. So this is very important because FAIR aims also to represent in the future all the Italian AI community. Some numbers: the total cost of the project is about 122 million euros for a contribution of about 114 million euros. In the FAIR partnership are involved 350 permanent researchers, about 250 junior researchers, and more than 100 PhD students. Okay, and they are placed in very many regions, many Italian regions. Okay. In line with the National Strategic Program for AI, FAI would like to give its important contribution to advance frontier research in AI to make Italy a global research innovation hub of artificial intelligence. This is a very challenging goal. Another very important goal is to reduce AI research fragmentation. As illustrated before, there are many actors that works and give their contribution in the AI field, and we would like to reduce this kind of fragmentation. Well, we are also would like to create a human-centered, trustworthy, and sustainable AI, foster AI-based innovation and development of AI technology, and last but not least, to create, retain, and attract AI talent in Italy. It's a very challenging. Well, only a few words about. I would like only to remind that FAIR is a foundational project. So we would like to build the AI system of the future, okay, well beyond currently available technology. And in order to achieve this goal, FAIR adopts a multidisciplinary research approach aimed to rethinking all the AI foundation, also involving, in addition to the research coming from STEM discipline, also lawyers, philosophers, social scientists, and so on. What about our organization? The project and the project partnership is organized according to a bespoke model. Okay, the OCI Spoke has its own thematic characterization, and the FAIR Foundation acts as the hub over the project. These are the thematic spoke, and each spoke is focused on some foundational research theme. For example, if you look at the spoke 1, human-centered AI, the research team is how to interact and collaborate with humans. If we look at the second spoke, integrative AI, the focus is integrative AI methods, technology and discipline, and so on. As you can see, these are foundational research teams. Well, but other than these thematic spokes, we have also created some 7 transversal projects. These projects are is like a glue which link together the spokes in order to involve several spokes in more challenging research team, multidisciplinary research teams. So, for example, you can see that the transversal project, which is related to legal and ethical design of a trustworthy AI system, involve the spokes human-centered AI, pervasive AI, symbiotic AI, resilient AI, and so on. This is another way to cooperate among spokes. In this slide, there is some additional information about the themes of the transversal project. For example, if we look, let me say, transversal project 5 and 6, frontiers on machine learning, this transversal project aims to find how to gear the methods of mathematics and physics to understand why and when machine learning works. And the very second important objective is to understand how to expand the frontier of lifelong continual incremental learning and meta learning, in other words, learning to learn. Okay, Clearly, even if the research, the FAIR project is a foundational project, but we also give attention to the innovation aspect. So the FAIR innovation activities are focused on the 11 priority sectors defined in the Italian strategic program for the artificial intelligence, and each spoke will focus its activities on some of these priority sectors. In this table we can see how the interest, the priority sector for each spokes. But at the same time, we have also some, as I show in my previous slide, we have also 7 big companies within our partnership, and this company, in addition to their main business sectors, are very active also in researching application of VI on other priority areas. For example, Bracco Imaging, which is a company specialized in medical imaging, has also interest in in industry and manufacturing, in environment and the national security, for example. It expressed this interest also for these industrial sectors. Okay. Well, I would like also to point out another important aspect of the FAIR partnership. As I said when I presented the main goals of the FAIR Foundation, I said that we would like to give our contribution for promote the creation of an Italian ecosystem. Okay, we have already received many expressions of interest of public and private entities to collaborate with FAIR. Okay, and these entities at present do not belong to the FAIR community. And the question is how we can plan to involve these new public and private entities in the FAIR project. Well, these tools that we will use in next month is related to the cascade calls. Cascade calls are founding within the FAIR budget. We allocate about 35 billion euros for cascade call, which are of 4 types. The first is a cascade call for basic research activities, and we will address to other research institutions that at present do not belong to the FAIR Foundation. The other type of cascade calls is focused for small and medium enterprise startups by spin-off for joint developing AI use case, problem definition, data collection, exploitation, domain expertise, and so on. Another type of cascade calls is also addressed to SMEs and spin-off and startup, and the main goals is to test, experiment with the technology developed by FAIR partners, and also to validate it. Quindi to propose activities to validate the technology that will be developed within the FAIR project. And finally, the hosting grants. With these grants, FAIR would like to fund visionary project proposed by innovative companies, and also to host fixed-term research and or research fellows from FAIR to spend about 6 or 9 months in high-tech industrial environment. Okay, this is the last action that we will implement in order to enlarge our partnership and to try to increase the involvement of the Italian AI community. Okay. Well, I finished my presentation. If there are some question or additional information you need, okay, I am available after the presentation of the colleague Antonio. Thank you again for your attention.
Thank you very much, Giuseppe. Exactly. And okay, so we are perfectly in time, I guess. I forgot to mention that the speakers were so kind to send us their slides ahead of time. So you can download the slides on the right-hand side under Documenti or Documents in English. You have the 2 PDF files of their presentations. So if you, while they speak, you want to go on and return back, you can do it. I will send, as always, slides, and when we will have it, because we are recording this session, I will send the slides and the link to the recording that we'll put on YouTube to all registered persons. So not only the participants who are actually connected, but also the ones who were interested but at the end couldn't take part in this webinar. Okay, so let's move on to our second speaker, who is Antonio KRÜGER. We're very happy to have him in this more policy strategy oriented webinar. Antonio is CEO and Scientific Director of the German Research Center for Artificial Intelligence, which acronym in German is the DFKI. And there at the DFKI, he heads the Department of Cognitive Assistance. As always the case, or as often the case, almost always the case for the senior members of research institutions, of non-university research institution in Germany, he also has an appointment as professor. So there are these double appointments that are not so common in Italy are completely common in Germany. And he's a full professor for computer science at the University of Saarland. So Saarland is a small region in Germany that maybe not all Italians know, at the border with France. There are, when in comedies, let's say in television in Germany, they always make fun of Saarland when there are elections. Anyway, so it's there, and he is a professor at the University of Saarland. He was before at the University of Münster from 2004 to 2009. He was professor of computer science and geoinformatics. He studied computer science at the University of Saarland, and had his PhD in 1999. He's a very prolific researcher with more than 200 scientific papers. And now I think he can begin his presentation. So I will give him the floor. One moment. Okay, so Antonio, the floor is yours.
So let's see. So can you see my slides actually?
We can, and we also hear you. If it happens that we don't hear you during your talk, I will tell you.
Yeah, I switched the microphone, so it should be fine. Good.
Okay.
Yeah, no, thank you very much actually for the for this invitation, and to have the opportunity to speak a little bit about DFKI, and the role of DFKI in the German AI strategy. Before I will dive a little bit into the specifics of a German AI strategy, I would like to talk a little bit about DFKI's mission, also a little bit the history, and to come back to what Matteo said. According to Saarland, this is true. There is actually Saarland, given that it's the smallest Bundesland, that is not a town. Actually, we have in Germany, we have this federal system with 16 Bundesländer, and 3 of them are actually city-states, so Berlin, Bremen, and Hamburg, which are of course in area pretty small. Saarland is the smallest actually non-city state, and therefore it's often used as an area reference. So if there is somewhere flooding or there are actually forest fires, usually the area is compared actually to the size of Saarland. So this is something we often hear, it's 1.5 times area of Saarland. So this is what most people in Germany know Saarland from, from these comparisons. But anyway, the German Research Center for AI has been founded actually in 1988, so pretty a while ago, in one of the former AI summers. There were a couple of AI winters in between. Obviously, now we are back in a summer, in an AI summer, in a very hot one, I would say. But DFKI has come a long way. It started in '88 already then as a public-private partnership. And what does this mean? This means that DFKI is not a public research institution, but a research institution that is supported by the public and the private hand. And here you can see the current shareholders of DFKI, which consists, sorry, I need to go back, this was unfortunate, which consists mostly of German companies, large ones, large industrial players, so all car manufacturers are part of DFKI. You see also European players like the Airbus Group, we have also smaller ones that come more from manufacturing, like for example Harting, which is an automation supplier in Germany. We have and Rosen, which is a supplier for robotic components. We have the large software companies like SAP and Software AG. And we have a couple of international players. Google and Microsoft are our shareholders. Ricoh, which that's a Japanese company. And also more companies that are specific to a certain segment, like for example John Deere and Claas, who are the 2 world-leading agricultural technology providers. And as you can see here also, at this example, we also have direct competitors among our shareholders. This is mainly, and this I think will be clear when I talk in a second about DFKI's mission, this is because DFKI is non-profit, so there is no kind of shareholder value in direct, I would say, revenues, to be expected for our shareholders. But because it's more about developing foundations further, from basic research. Also, it's a lot about giving input to standardization processes, which I think is very important if you think about trustworthy and certifiable AI, 2 cornerstones actually to make AI really trustworthy and reliable. And this is the reason why you find competitors, quite a few actually. You could also say Google and Microsoft are competitors, of course, and also the car companies to a certain extent are competitors. And you see also there are companies like NVIDIA who just more recently entered the AI market, but very prominently actually. And we have also companies from financial, for financial area, we have consultant companies, and even from food, yeah, like the Schwarz Gruppe, who's basically the owner of Lidl, which I think also in Italy is known. So DFKI has been designed as a public-private partnership. So so these shareholders basically, together with the current 4 lender who basically have full DFKI sites, I will talk about this in a second, basically form the supervisory board and help actually to steer the long-term vision actually of DFKI, the research planning, and also do contracts actually with DFKI, within DFKI, and also with partners outside of DFKI. DFKI has grown substantially in the last 10 years. We are currently over 1,500 employees. If you really count every scientist and also every research assistant in our on our payroll. We have, of course, an administration that's in particular designed to support and carry out research, AI research projects. I think this is something also particular in Germany that, and I will come to this in a second, a little bit later. In Germany, many research activities are funded by government ministries and agencies through project-oriented programs. So they basically have themes, and these themes are usually themes the government is interested to support, and these themes are usually supported by specific programs that require companies and also research institutions to work together and in projects actually. And this is basically the main, I would say, support that DFKI gets is through this project-oriented research. DFKI has always been a company that basically educates young people. We have an average length of stay of our employees of 4.7 years. This is kind of correlates pretty well actually with the time, you know, an average PhD takes in Germany, I would say. You know, it's very similar, maybe a little bit more towards 4 years, but definitely longer than 4 years. Yeah, and we have many researchers from all over the world actually working for DFKI. Currently more than 65 countries. I think the actual count is 71 countries, you know, where researchers come from that work for DFKI. DFKI started actually in Saarbrücken and Kaiserslautern. So Matteo mentioned this, close to the French border. You see this in the lower left of Germany. There is actually Saarland and Saarbrücken, the capital of Saarland, and Kaiserslautern. This was actually the double site, which started in 1988. And then slowly, actually, additional branches were opened. The first one actually was in Bremen. This site exists since 2006. And closely after that, we also opened up a lab in Berlin that is also very successful. This is important because many political decisions, of course, are taken in Berlin. So for us, it's very good to have actually an office there and a site there, and also do research in Berlin. More recently, actually, we established a full site in Osnabrück. Actually, there was a lab there since 2019, and the full site has been established actually last year. Yeah? The newest actually additions are Lübeck. There we have a branch that is dedicated to AI and medicine. This is mainly because the University of Lübeck has a very decent computer science department and a very strong medical university department together with a large actually hospital. And given that medicine and well-being, we've seen this earlier in the presentation, is of course one of, I would say, the most important application areas of AI, you know, for at least for the next decade. It makes a lot of sense to focus research on AI, also with a particular player here, and this is in this case Lübeck. And the newest addition has been Darmstadt, a lab that has been established last year, with a very strong focus actually on systems AI. So that's what can be also subsumed under the topic of integrative AI. I also believe that that is an area that is very likely to gain more and more importance, you know, especially if we want to push AI in more and more areas, you know, and this will happen, of course, and we need to mitigate actually the downsides of current, in particular, also generative AI approaches, you know, and this can only be done, in my opinion, through a thorough understanding how integration of different AI technologies and systems can be successfully done, and this is something that we focus in Darmstadt. The mission of DFKI is basically to empower German society and industry with AI know-how and technology. So it's a major transfer mission that is basically doing transfer among and across several different sectors and areas. One, of course, is to drive AI innovations. So that means to provide AI expertise to industry and also to support new AI startups. DFKI has been very successful in the past 30 years with startups. We have over 100 startups and spin-offs from DFKI, some of which had very good exits also. So two-figured million exits actually, from which DFKI has also partially benefited. We are, of course, given our long history in Germany, an important partner to inform the national AI roadmaps. We'll talk about that in a second, and also to highlight the impact of AI in other disciplines and also other application areas. We are part of many actually advisory boards, support politics here, but also scientific endeavors, you know, in many committees and so on. I think this is also very important. And although we are talking about German and also Italian AI strategies, I think if you look at the broader landscape, it's important also to synchronize in Europe. So this idea of having AI made in Europe, not only in Germany, you know, is also something we are very much committed to, and therefore I'm also very grateful and happy that we include also this bilateral exchange, which I think is very, very important and should in the end, of course, also strengthen AI research in Europe in general. Yeah. And in the end, you know, one could say DFKI builds bridges between AI research and its applications. So, we have at the moment 28 research departments. I will not go through all of them. You know, you have the slides, so you can look those up and you can find more information on the websites. And of course, Kaiserslautern and Saarbrücken, being the oldest sites, have a larger and more departments usually than the younger sites. But if you just scan this slide and the next slide, what you will see is that we basically cover all aspects of modern AI. Yeah, of course, from modern machine learning approaches to classical knowledge representation and knowledge engineering, because this is also, if you've just, for example, followed the keynote from Sundar Pichai, the Alphabet and Google CEO, on how Google approaches many how they integrate AI into their products, you know, it's clear that it's not only actually they're not only relying on generative AI, but they use lots of AI techniques that they've also used in the past, like knowledge graphs, for example, to achieve actually better and more reliable results, you know, in their different products, for example, search engines or document processors and so on. So, and what you can see here is we have foundational departments like working on language technology, like working on robotics, like working on vision, for example. We have more kind of horizontal ones, like, for example, the department I'm responsible, that is more kind of concerned how to integrate humans into the loop with AI systems. So that would be, for example, cognitive assistance. And we have certain departments that are focusing on a particular research area, application area, like, for example, marine application or agricultural or financial services, you know, so, or healthcare, you know. And this is a little bit, I think, kind of shows how the full spectrum actually of different approaches to AI research and transfer are covered actually at DFKI. We are very strong advocates of different AI networks, you know. Of course, and I will talk about this in a second, there are the national AI networks, in particular the national AI centers, with whom we have very close ties, actually. These national AI centers, of which DFKI was one, you know, are the building pillars for the research strategy on AI from the German government, you know. We of course work closely together, you know, with all of them. We have a very close relationship to BIFOLD, which is the Berlin National AI Center, the National AI Center that's in Berlin, through Volker Makel, who has a joint director position with DFKI and with BIFOLD. Yeah. But of course, we are also part of other important AI initiatives in Germany. One is, for example, the Humboldt professorships. While the Humboldt professorships are not particularly from the general program targeted AI, so what the German government is aiming at here is to bring back researchers from outside Germany to Germany, you know, in providing them with additional funds up to 5 million euros they get, you know, for their research. And this instrument of the Humboldt professorship has been in particularly also successfully used in the last years to basically get AI research groups back to Germany. So I think currently more than 30 AI professorships have been filled actually through a Humboldt professorship with excellent colleagues, you know, from all around the world that often have their roots in Germany. They set out, you know, went to the US, for example, or in other places in the world, and then they came back, you know, through this program, you know. Of course, there are other kind of networks. DFKI is very much associated, you know. We've been for a long time a partner in EIT, for example, but also especially in the European language community. We are very strong, you know. We've focused a lot on multilingual AI technologies, you know, in the AI context. We are part of GPDX, which is one initiative actually for a large language model that has been driven by the German government. And of course, we are Philipp Zuselek, one of our managing directors, is a co-founder of CLAIR, yeah, and which is one of the two large European networks. The other one is ALICE, which we are also a member, we are also participating, and we are a member of. ALICE has been set up by the Max Planck Institutes, you know, and CLAIR is broader and has also a very strong and Alice is very focused on machine learning. Claire is broader. It focuses actually on all aspects of AI and also has a very strong transfer mission. And then there are, of course, key EU projects, Tyler and Vision, and also the Humane AI Net, where DFKI is a key player. We have currently strong bilateral bonds to France and to the Czech Republic. With France, we have a strong partnership with INRIA, where we complement, where we put funds together to run projects, you know, where DFKI funds its side and INRIA funds their side. We've put together a budget and it's actually more than 6 million euros now for joint projects, you know, where we explore relevant novel AI research topics that have potentially a strong application impact. And with CIRC, that's actually a collaboration with the Czech Republic. This is in particular focusing in the field of Industry 4.0 and human-robot interaction. There is also a large European project RECAP running that is driven by DFKI and CIRC together. To sum this a little bit up, we have these different figures here. So industrial corporations, we had more than 380 international industrial partners at DFKI in the last 7 years. Over 1,000 national industrial partners in projects. More than 100 spin-off has been founded. We have the concept, we developed a special concept for transfer, the transfer labs. I have one slide in a second about this, but of course, DFKI is also very active in transfers through heads and peoples. So more than 600 employees have been moved in the last years from DFKI into academia and industry to set up their own research groups or to work actually in industrial research and also in industrial production teams. And of course, as Matteo mentioned, all DFKI scientific directors, all these 28 labs are headed by a scientific director, have joint position with universities. So we also have a very strong actually teaching output in terms of bachelor and master thesis. And for example, more than 220 PhDs have been completed in the last 7 years at DFKI. This is a little bit the positioning of DFKI in the innovation cycle. So given that all scientific directors have their basic research groups at the universities, you know, this is still the home for knowledge-oriented basic research. And this is the left side. And on the right side, you have actually marketing and application use. This is actually where spin-offs, our spin-offs are operating. This is where external industrial customers that work with DFKI on certain projects are operating, and of course also our shareholders. And DFKI is somewhat in the middle. Yeah. So we do all kind of different research activities in what here is called application-oriented or applied research. I personally believe I still use these terms, you know, differentiations of basic research and application-oriented research. But I strongly believe that actually these terms are getting more and more meaningless, at least in AI research, because AI research, modern AI research relies heavily on data sets and on realistic data sets. And this means, you know, there is no contradiction between, or let's say, let's put it the other way. There are win-win situations, both for researchers and also for industry to work closely together in AI research projects, you know. And often, if you look at turnover times from research in AI, from research, how long it takes into projects, this period of time is much smaller than in many other actually research areas. You know, this is due to the dynamicity of the field and also the progress that we've seen in the last couple of years. Yeah, in order to accommodate this, DFKI has developed a concept called transfer labs. These transfer labs actually, and currently we run 7 of them. Those are basically research labs. They do basic AI research, but together actually with industry by integrating employees of partner organizations into the DFKI ecosystems. Also mutual PhDs are integrated into these systems. We still have a certain theme and a kind of a project around actually these basic research activities. But the main idea is actually that the data comes from our industrial partners. The research agenda is set together, but the research that's done is cutting edge and leads also to cutting edge publications in top AI venues. So one example is a lab that Andreas Dengel, my colleague in Kaiserslautern, is running together with ESA, and BASF and Munich Re, so the insurance company. And the idea here is to advance machine learning techniques by making use of Copernicus data, so the satellite data that the ESA has access to, and in close collaboration actually with use cases from agriculture, from chemical industry, but also from insurance companies. This is a typical example of good working actually research lab, transfer lab at DFKI. Okay, now that you hopefully got an idea of how DFKI is operating, let me use a reminder of my time to talk a little bit about the goals of the German government's AI strategy. So first of all, one has to keep in mind, and this is actually a very schematic and rough view on the 3 pillars of the non-profit science systems in Germany. So on one side, we have, that's actually the right pillar, we have the major research institutions, Max Planck, Fraunhofer, Helmholtz, eventually also Leibniz, yeah, that's one part to the right. On the left, we have university and colleges that have very strong AI research labs. Also Max Planck has very strong AI research labs. Fraunhofer is focusing not so much on AI, though they have also a couple of good AI groups, yeah. And Helmholtz is providing usually large infrastructure. It has some very good groups, but AI in Helmholtz is more sought as a horizontal activity. So Helmholtz has an AI lab in Munich, head by Fabian Thies, who's doing a very good job actually to work together with the different science represented in Helmholtz. And then there's the middle pillar, small and medium-sized research institutes, public-private partnerships, and other institutes, of which DFKI is a member. There is also office, for example, in Oldenburg, or Fortiv in FZI in Munich and Karlsruhe. So there are other also representatives. And all these pillars play, of course, an important role in the AI strategy of Germany. And Germany has set up a strategy in 2018, which has been updated in 2020. And I think the goals, you know, if you look at them, it's very similar to what we've seen in Giuseppe DE Pietro's presentation. Of course, you know, it's important that we keep up actually also with worldwide development in AI, that we support actually the ecosystem, that we are able to strengthen training and attract skilled workers and ecosystems. You know, there is a certain focus actually on European activities also. Yeah, Germany always has devised its strategy in respect also to European strategies, and there are certain aspects here that of course are important for Germany, for example, to be able to set standards also internationally, and to help adapt and regulate also AI. This is something that has been also important to Germany, and Germany has made many inputs actually to this and different activities. For example, it started already 3 years ago with a national roadmap for standardization of AI. So this is something also that's an indirect consequence of this strategy. This has led to a pretty sophisticated catalog, you know, how to reach AI standardization, for example. And this is also something that DFKI has contributed in the past quite significantly. And then the other important instrument that has been installed by the German government are the AI competence centers. Currently there are 6. DFKI is one of them. We have Bifold, which is in Berlin Institute for Foundations of Learning and Data. We have MCML, the Munich Competence Center for Machine Learning, which is obviously Munich. Then we have Lamar, which is also concentrating on machine learning and AI, which is in Dortmund and Bonn, so in North Rhine-Westphalia. Then we have SCATS AI. That's actually a Center for Scalable Data Analytics and AI in Dresden and Leipzig. This has a very strong, actually, high-performance computing focus. And then we have Tübingen AI Center, which is very closely related also to the Max Planck Institute of Intelligent Systems in Tübingen. And these centers basically form the AI Competence Center network, and they get roughly, each center gets roughly 10 to 15 million per year for operation. And they have been, and this funding has been secured, you know, for another 7 years now. And each center has a guarantee that after a positive evaluation, this funding will actually continue. There is a national platform called Plattform Lernende Systeme, so a platform for learning systems. And this is actually pretty good. There's also a website. You can see this down here. There's a pretty sophisticated monitoring and assessment about AI activities in Germany. In fact, in 2018, the German government had promised to spend 5 billion euros, you know, on AI activities. Currently, you know, after 5 years now, not nearly the half has been spent. This is, you can discuss about the reasons, you know, but it's also, even if you decide to spend a lot of money, it's not so easy really to spend it sensibly, you know. So for example, if you think there was one goal to have 100 new professorships in Germany. I think we have reached that goal more or less, but you know, you might be able to set those goals, but of course you need to also find the people, yeah, to fill the positions. So it's not just enough to say that you want to have 500 new AI professorships, you know, you need to fill those positions. And one has also to mention that the national AI strategy is complemented by the strategy of the Bundesländer. And for example, Bavaria, they on their own have spent, announced to spend billions, and they started to do this into actually AI, the advance of AI research and AI transfer. Yeah. So I think we are on a, there is this strong pillar, you know, to say we want to fund excellent research, but the second pillar is actually to transfer the research results into praxis, and the third one is actually to increase AI competencies over a broad range of stakeholders, so not only students and so on, but actually workforces, the general public, and so on. And there are all kind of different projects running related to these three goals, you know. and progress, of course, in the last years has been made. But still, you know, as I mentioned, even if you decide to spend a lot of money somewhere, it doesn't mean that you're really able to do so. So maybe last slide here. A little bit, where do we stand actually in this is something that's often said, you know, we have kind of a competition, a worldwide competition, you know, of different systems. I personally don't like to see this, you know, especially if you think about research, to talk about competition. Research always has been a global effort, you know, and for example, if you see how well China has caught up, you know, in the last 5 to 6 years, also in research, they have now excellent researchers that do very interesting research and publish, you know, at the best conferences. There is still, I think, something. There are some observations, you know. I think the first observation is that the different spheres here, they have focused on different assets, you know. In the US, lots of AI monetization has been run through B2C business, you know, in particular due to large and easy access to consumer data. Yeah. In Germany, we are much stronger actually on these B2B cases, yeah, and on speech technology, on robotics. This is very strong actually in Germany and in Europe. Human-robot collaboration is an example. And then, of course, in China, they live from their closed and still large-scale ecosystem. You know, very strong in online businesses, very strong also in healthcare and education. And what we see here is rather a competition in a way, in my opinion. And for Europe, it would be important actually to concentrate actually on the assets Europe is very good at, instead of just copying, you know, successes of others, you know. Another interesting observation maybe, and then I'm happy to stop my presentation for the discussion, is to see that China is currently struggling, you know, how to cope actually with generative AI. So this is something that of course comes very strong from the US, is very much driven by the US, and I also believe we need to do something here in Europe. Actually, we need to find a good response here. But China is struggling because these generative AI models are much harder to control than actually the internet. You know, China has made very strong and successful effort, one has to admit, you know, to filter and control the internet and to keep actually undesired assertions out of their bubble. But this is much harder actually to do and to realize with generative AI, and it will be interesting to see how generative AI in China develops. Yeah, it's not impossible, I would say. I think it's also possible to do this, but it's much harder, you know, and it's an interesting development. And with this, I would like to stop my presentation. Thank you very much for your attention, and I would give, I think, the floor to Matteo. Thank you.
So thank you very much, Antonio. It was very nice, very clear. I think we have lots of things to discuss also after this webinar, let's say, on a more, let's say, secluded or a basis. So questions. Everybody can write down questions on the right-hand side. As I said, as always, there is no questions at the beginning, so me and Vincenzo normally begin to ask questions. I have a couple. Should I begin, Vincenzo, or do you have? No? Okay, so I think one important thing that you mentioned, and that maybe I didn't get it or is missing in the fair, let's say, ecosystem, which is forming right now. So maybe you know it's they are relatively at the beginning. Is the setting of standards and the regulatory framework. so this is an experience I have from the embassy as well. In Germany, there are more the attention, let's say, also from the researchers themselves to, let's say, contribute to more, I would call them policy measures, or let's say governmental oriented measures, like setting standards and taking part in the regulatory framework. You see them because there are always Germans in committees in Brussels or in international committees, and are normally in leading positions. Obviously, what you get when you talk about it in Italy is that Italian researchers are obviously not paid for doing that, and it doesn't bring them forward in their career. So and also the cooperation with ministries is not so fluent, so easy probably as it is in Germany. But still, I think we are missing Italians who take care of our interest, more or less, in this committee. So my question to Giuseppe is whether you have been thinking about this component also in FAIR. So I don't know how you say in English, presidiare. So let's say occupy. Let's say this committees at the end of the day, and being part in meetings where these things are discussed. The audio, Giuseppe, you should.
Okay, Matteo, good question. As you know, FAIR works through their partners, and there are many colleagues belonging to different institutions, universities, CNR, which they give their contribution in several committees on artificial intelligence, both national and international. For example, you know that the most part of the experts for writing the national strategic program on artificial intelligence are full professor or CNR researcher. So there is an involvement. For example, I'm aware about that some colleagues are involved in some European committee, for example, for the ethical rules of artificial intelligence, on the data privacy issue related to artificial intelligence. So I think that maybe at present there is not a real coordination, since that there is an Italian presence in many institutional board related to AI, but there is at present there is no orchestration, and there is no common strategy. So I hope that within the FAIR experience we will be able also to play the role as a hub towards the scientific and industrial AI community in Italy, also for supporting this presence in this different committee. Okay. In my opinion, we are present, but there is no coordinating action. Okay, this is a real problem.
Yes, for example, I can make the example I took care while I was in the embassy of. So I co-created the trilateral on Industry 4.0 between Italy, France, and Germany, and one working group of this trilateral was standardization.
Yeah.
Quite clearly, and the problem there was that in the committees who took care of standardization, the European world level committees, there were few Italians, because normally there are people from companies in this case. There were few Italians, and the few Italians who were there really didn't. So there was the lack of this orchestration that you mentioned. So they kind of represented only their company, or in the worst case, their research group, or so they're not research necessarily, but their group, and not an Italian strategy. So
Yes, if I add additional information, for example, related to the standardization problem, recently I met the president of a uniform committee, Engineer Domenico Schillaci, and he asked us to work together, to have a contact with firm in order to gain knowledge and suggestion for the standardization of some aspect related to artificial intelligence. So we are working in this direction.
Schillaci, the names are always the same. Schillaci was exactly one of those few that I was mentioning before, who was also involved in standardization for Industry 4.0. Okay, and in Germany, that is my question to Antonio. This matters are orchestrated to, I like the word from Giuseppe, by the platform. The platform and the system, is this correct?
Yeah, this is correct, but in Germany, actually, we have very strong, traditionally very strong standardization bodies. Yeah, like for example, the DIN, the German industrial norm, and they, for example, then usually are the ones that organize these efforts. They get actually money from the government, to organize, to put all the stakeholders together, to orchestrate this, and then of course also to distribute it internationally, because I believe this is also important. Of course, for researchers, standards are a little bit boring. I understand this. I'm a researcher by myself. I think, if somebody tells a researcher, yeah, you have to spend an hour in a meeting, in a standardization body, or you go to a scientific conference for an hour, it's very easy choice for them. But I've learned over time, being more, of course, now also in scientific management, I learned how important this is. If you look at China, of course, through its through its structure, they are very focused actually on standardization bodies. They basically are entering all kind of AI standardization groups, and I think it's important that, of course, Germany and Italy should be present, but in general, that we as Europeans, we don't basically back up here. It's important to be part of the standardization game also in the future, because in the end, products are built, on top of those standards, and those that have been in the standardization groups, are the ones that have a kind of a head start, for the whole pack, because they work 2 years on those standards. I think this is pretty important.
Yes. So I would propose, just throw it there, to maybe one of the things in which we could cooperate between CNR/FAIR and the FKI is also in building kind of common procedures or exchanging of experience in this matter. I think that, obviously we also have normative bodies in Italy, even if they are not so prominent or probably well funded as well as DIN. For sure, people in FAIR would know them. Okay, so I would have other questions, but maybe I give the floor to Vincenzo if he wants to ask something.
Related to this, was wondering, given the recent discussion about the generative AI and ChatGPT in particular. I wonder what is Germany doing in this respect? Like, is there any worry or anything ongoing in terms of regulation? And on the Italian side, is the, let's say, the political environment, generally speaking, apart from the details of forbidding one thing because there's some regulatory loophole that has to be closed. I can understand that. Is there an interest and an operational interest from politics, from real politics, not standardization committees, let's say? I guess Antonio can tell us about Germany.
Yeah, no, I'm happy to start. So in terms of regulations, the German government is very much kind of supporting European activities for regulations. So there is no national regulation planned at the moment. So it was interesting to see, for example, that Italy, the data protection officers, were able actually to shut down ChatGPT. This in principle, because at least I'm not a lawyer, but I think the justification would have been could have been used in every of the European countries, because GDPR is valid in all European countries. And in Germany, interesting enough, the government has decided not to act upon this, so they deliberately said, no, we're not acting. Many others also. Of course, we have there at the moment a lack in the regulatory framework. We will see whether the European AI Act is able to fill this. I expect, to a certain extent, yes. But for the European AI Act, I believe the important part is that it is designed flexible enough, to react also to the dynamic field of AI. This is always a little bit the risk with regulatory frameworks, that you design them basically. You optimize them towards the point in the past, and the future looks completely different, and they don't work very well anymore, and there is a certain risk. So I think it's important that we design those frameworks in a way that they remain flexible, and I can see that the European Union is moving a little bit into that direction, so there is I think this has been understood, but let's see if the mechanisms, the general regulatory mechanisms allow for enough flexibility in this respect.
Okay.
I wonder if Giuseppe can tell us, let's say, what the feeling is at the government level, at the parliamentary level, not just at the, at the lower importance entities.
No, honestly speaking, I don't know what is at present the attention at the government level about a regulation on the generative AI. Okay, but I think that the topic is very hot, because today we are able to generate images, sounds, which it's quite impossible to distinguish from the real ones, and this can have a very big impact on several fields. For example, I had a discussion with some colleagues some weeks ago about how the generative AI could, in a certain manner, I can say, generate also a crisis at the justice level. For example, usually you produce a proof test, for example, photo. You stay at the time with this person, but this photo could be a fake. I register your voice. Think at the interceptation, as I can say in English, intercettazione.
Wiretapping. I think it's called.
Okay. So you can also synthesize by having only few seconds of your voice or my voice, an entire dialogue. So there are the very unforeseen impact on many sectors. So I think this is a priority to have a regulation and some very clear recommendation about how we can use generative AIs. And we have also to study from the technical point of view how we can, for example, implement a new strategy for distinguish, let us say, fake artifacts from the real ones. Okay. So the problem we have to face the problem from both the technological point of view, but essentially also from the regulatory point of view. And I think that the sensibility of Italian politics at the moment is not so high as a request.
If I may add the comment, there's an example of what you say, which is music. Now, people are generating all kinds of songs with the voice of Kurt Cobain, who died, I don't know, 20 years ago, or say, melding together Paul McCartney as he sung in the 60s and as he sings today, and this sort of thing. And a lot of people say, look, I mean, these fakes are better than the original. So there's a whole host of consequences, of legal consequences, as well as market consequences, presumably.
Yeah, but of course there's also the big players are preparing actually, of course, technological responses actually to that threat. You know, we will see massive watermarking. You know, this is Google has announced it. I know that Adobe and Microsoft, they're working together on provenance models. You know, where you basically down from the pixel of a camera, you know, you can really trace, you know, what happened to that pixel in an image, you know. And of course, I believe in the end, you know, if you don't have these kind of proofs origins somewhere, you know, in images this is interestingly technically easier than with text. With text it's much more complicated because it's more abstract, you know, and to put watermarks into text is much more difficult. But in images, you know, I think we will soon see kind of massive technological improvements on the whole chain of image editing. You know, if you think at I don't know if you've seen the newest version from Photoshop where you just can replace stuff, you know, through generative AI, you know, and change images. Pretty fascinating as a tool, you know. And of course, you know, if companies like Adobe, for example, commit to these kind of provenance models and tracing and so on, you know, I think very soon content that has no proof of origin will be automatically suspect, you know, and not very trustworthy. No.
But this is, at the end of the day, again about standards. So you are deciding by consensus then a certain image or images have to have this watermark. So these attributes, if they don't have it, then they are not complying. Compliant.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. But again, you know, often this has happened before, you know, industry for their own interest, you know, they are setting de facto standards, you know, by moving forward. And then, of course, out of those, we had this before. For example, you know, you mentioned that I've been a professor for geoinformatics for a while. You know, I don't know if you remember Google Earth, actually, yeah. So this was a de facto standard of how to handle 3D spatial data. Yeah, and there has been activities, standardization activities in parallel that never really caught up, you know, because the big companies decided, you know, they need to move forward more quickly. You know, they cannot wait 3 or 4 or 5 years until standard has been developed. And politics didn't see in this particular example of spatial data, they didn't see the need to regulate, you know. Here now it's different, I think, situation, because the need for regulation is clear. Also the need to move fast forward is clear, you know. So I think the standards will follow up, you know, after industry has set de facto standards and politics have regulated, because it's so obvious this needs regulation, you know, at a certain point. Yeah, and maybe this point is sooner than later. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, obviously the examples that Giuseppe made, they are crucial, you know. If no, in the judiciary system for proving offenses, it's not only about money, it's about the liberty.
Yeah, it's about people. Or if you think about that images can change elections, you know, if you have a flood of kind of manipulated images that look super real one day before actually an election takes place, an important one, you know, you need to have responses for this, because this will happen for sure with the next big elections, you know, that people will try at least, you know. And I think the election with Turkey already has shown, you know, people have started to do this and try it. But of course, these kind of attempt to manipulate actually democratic outcomes will be much more sophisticated, let's say, in a year's time or so. Yeah.
Okay. I have a question for Antonio for the financing models. So you told us that there are these 28 companies which are part of your board. I think I asked you before, you told me that they don't give, let's say, money if not for projects, right? So an example is these transfer labs that you spoke about. So these are projects. So these are fixed-term projects where companies invest money. This is an example of.
Yeah.
All right.
Exactly. Yeah.
And so, how much do they invest?
Yeah. So this depends a little bit, but you can, I would say, it's at least for German standards, it's a substantial amount. So it kind of is a couple of 100,000 K per year you would expect from such a transfer lab, you know, investment, you know, because you need to pay the stipends for PhD students. You need, and you want to have a couple of those, you know, you need kind of postdocs that basically do a kind of supervisory support along with the scientific directors. And you usually have a sort of an overarching theme project that also needs a certain amount of attention. So this is roughly the idea. Of course, they come a little bit in different sizes, you know. But if you know how much a PhD student costs in Germany, more or less, you know, and then those are the figures, you know.
So a couple of thousand K per year for 7 years.
100,000 Ks, yes. Yeah, usually we do this in 3-year tranches. So this is usually what the PhD takes, maybe with an additional optional year. But we had transfer labs that have been extended, you know, repeatedly, you know, over time. Then often there's a little bit of a topic shift or so, yeah. But this is actually something that happens. Yeah.
And so now the question to Giuseppe, as far as I could understand, and it's normally is the case in Italy, the transfer of money is in the other direction. So it's the public money which is given to companies, or do you envisage? Do you expect that you will have the companies contributing with this kind of sums of envelopes to activities?
Yes. As you know, we were born only 6 months ago. And the first activity of the foundation is to manage the public funds that we receive. But I think that you know that we have to survive to the end of the project. So clearly we have to put out to put in place our strategy in order to get money from outside. This means that maybe we FAIR will present a project, let me say, at the national, international level, but we also design a model, a cooperation model with the industry. The idea is that to involve industry in a special project, and we can ask funding for the implementation of project. We don't like to ask money to companies only for the fact that they belong to the foundation, okay? But we are more interested in their involvement on a real project, okay? Also because if they believe in project, then they are I think that are more likely to cooperate and to invest money, because it's there is a common and shared project which meet their exigence. So I think that we in the next weeks we will start to adopt a model for the creation of our ecosystem, in which the presence of the industrial components will play a very big role.
Okay, so we will see. So you are beginning to
right.
let's say to conceive this kind of industrial projects.
Yeah.
Okay, good. All right. Yeah, I had a minor question also as well to Giuseppe for this PhD. So something that I don't know. This national PhD program, which is led by CNR and Pisa, University of Pisa. So you said there were these the federation of 5 programs, right? With a common ground.
Right.
You mentioned several topics. So this common ground, how is it formed? Is there an exchange of PhD students between places? Are there online courses? Are there workshops?
There are common courses which can that are provided by online or in presence. Okay, but the student has to move from one place to another. But all the programs share some basic competencies that are provided both in remote mode with recorded lesson or material, and other teaching is done in presence. Okay, but there is not movement among only if there is let me say some particular research aspect that the student would like to discuss with other student or professor belonging to another institution, another university.
Okay, nice. All right. Okay. So from my side, I pose all the questions. I don't see questions from the audience. Probably, yeah. It's too strategic. I don't know. It's too. But anyway. So from me, yeah, I don't have any more questions. Vincenzo.
Me too.
Okay, so I think we should organize Antonio and Giuseppe maybe a meeting, let's say, between us, also in preparation of Villa Vigoni, but
yeah,
preparation of a possible MOU between CNR and the FKI,
Yeah.
and so the sooner the better. I will send you an email on that.
Very
And
good.
Okay.
And yeah, from my side, I mean, it was very interesting, at least for me. And so thank you very much. Yeah, see you online again soon.
Yes,
Okay.
thank you very much, Matteo and Vincenzo, putting this together. Yeah, and Giuseppe, it was nice meeting you. See you soon in person, hopefully. Yeah.
Okay.
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 Bye bye.
Bye bye. Bye bye.